wreck avoidances,
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
daring passes,
Oh, you're gonna get it.
silly jumps,
Oh my god, a drive-through.
the thrill of victory,
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
and the occasional mishap.
My sim crashed.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
A new beginning with familiar faces. For the first time, Lionheart is going back to its roots. 18 races to determine who is the best and the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-an-hour Indy cars, inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one inaugural champion, whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. Find out next. The Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by DMLC Racing Channel, starts now.
It has almost been a full month since Robert Malechka held on to win at Worldwide Technology Raceway in a two-caution affair. Now, with the month of June in full swing for the Lionheart Racing Series, its Speedway Series presented by the DMLC Racing Channel is back in full force tonight. 3 and 4 wide actions expected at iRacing's Michigan International Speedway for this evening's coverage of the HyperX Michigan 200. Hello and welcome to RaceSpot TV and ESTV for coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX, makers of the premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whenever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code LION, HRT15 for 15% off orders. My name is Justin Prince, alongside me is Lorenzo Bonder for today's coverage with Tyler Maxson in the producer's seat. TV cameras are provided by Esteban Ballo and TrackCams 22. You can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to timing71.org, along with your favorite team and drivers in the real and virtual worlds of motorsport. Let's dive straight into our Sim Experience Countdown to Green as we get ready to go high-octane racing for 100 laps tonight, Lorenzo. A race where speed, and more speed is expected.
Yeah, full on speed, full on send every single lap, and one of the trickiest starts to a race because it's on the banked oval. Basically, you're banked for 3/4 of a lap. The only part where it's more flat is the back straight, but the one thing that would dictate here is how you manage your tires, which those things in the Dallara can be quite tricky.
Absolutely, and keep in mind, we're heading into the full swing of the schedule. Starting with this round, we're approaching the midway portion after this week, as well as the next race at Kentucky. And then it brings us into a Triple Crown double points paying race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In our words, momentum's going to be key the next few weeks with some high-octane racing tonight, a tough mile-and-a-half racing at Kentucky, and then, of course, the Brickyard.
Yeah, and especially the drivers will want to build up as much momentum as they can and try to get the maximum amount of points into the Indianapolis. That double points will be key if you guys are trying to propel yourself for the championship, and because Auto Club can be all hell break loose depending on how the driver standings are. And from what we have on the driver standings, things are pretty much close between the leader and a few other spots.
Take a peek towards those driver standings, shall we? And what's been an entertaining season for that championship fight so far. Tony Shelton holds on to a 16-point advantage entering today over Alexis Newsom, Matt Taylor, Christopher, and Barrett Rolfe rounds out the top 5. Keep in mind, Barrett Rolfe has had a lot of momentum in this series, Lorenzo, with some real-world experience, as well as having a lot of times where he's had to cut his way through the field, which can always be very difficult.
And cutting, if you one of the tracks you can cut your way over here is actually Michigan. If you start in the back, you can actually strategize and maximize the fuel efficiency and grab up a few spots just by driving smart and driving safe on this 2-mile track.
Adrenaline Motorsports has had a very successful campaign in this series, 841 points entering tonight. Team Race First Black and Red following behind them with 676 and 671 points respectively. And factory back, the past few weeks with Robert Malechka in particular, Renzo, has been hard charging on Ford, 615 points. They're fourth in the standings.
And they're fourth in the standings, especially with the good momentum that Malechka had on the previous race. He won on the Worldwide Technology Raceway race in Illinois, and that was a really close race. He's had a good lead, nearly got chunked by Matt Taylor, but managed to hold out in the few last laps. Can't wait to see what the driver out of the number 91 has to do in this race.
And the rookie standings have been very tight as well. Alexis Newsom leads those standings by just 5 points. Barrett Rolfe, Alexander Vanderson, AJ Musselman, the top 5. Dean Mall, Mike Rigney, Charles Teed, Matt Houston, and Alex Gouillon, the top 10. It's been very impressive to see the rookies compete very well. They have been at the forefront of the battles week in and week out in the series.
Especially Alexis Newsom, she's the side with one of the other drivers. One other driver. She's the only multiple time winner here on the Lionheart Speedway series. So the driver, I think the rookies drivers have been pretty much stacked throughout the whole season. Can't wait to see what to do with them in the Michigan track, because this for the rookies can be very tricky.
Let's take a look at your series details presented by Minus 273. Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves, and tonight, keep in mind, custom fixed setups, which means with these Dallara DW12s, your hands and feet are the most important things here. And that's going to be very critical when not only handling the runs you're going to be having across the track, Renzo, but the potential of aero wash in the corners.
Oh, especially coming into turn number 1 and turn number 3, right? And there's a different group for each turn. Taking turn number 1 and turn number 3, it will vary quite a lot, because depending on how burnt out your tires will be, there is some stance in there. It will be some possibilities of the car's rear just spinning out, just because the car is so much spin in the front end, the rear end will kick in, and there's nothing you can do about other than hitting the wall.
Keep in mind, this HyperX Michigan 200 is a milestone race for Lionheart. Almost 7 years since the first ever Lionheart race. The DW12 returned to this racetrack. That was back on July the 3rd, 2014. The initial response was overwhelming, and they actually had splits back in the day here at this racetrack with a settled maximum field of 40 cars. It was also the season opener Michigan for 2 seasons before Homestead became the traditional opener back in season 3 of Lionheart competition. But with that, keep in mind, you can see the pole sitter has never won here before, both in the DW12 and the IR18 in particular, Renzo.
Yeah, and this is the key aspect, again, strategies, just driving in the draft, like I said, and conserving that fuel, getting some good runs, because there isn't a huge gap in terms of performance. The custom fixed setups kind of levels out the fuel, so it's all on driver skills. And if you actually had a good groove coming into this track, you can make up just the ground by, saving that fuel and getting, who knows, a single stretch run all the way to the end, and you can get a win by it.
All of it's going to be very critical for tonight's race, as drivers have been preparing for tonight's action for weeks on end, and what's expected to be an exciting one. And that's going to be one of the main emphasized points. Was talking with a couple drivers on the series Discord in preparation for tonight, and the main thing they emphasized, lots of sends, lots of 3 and 4 wide action, and in particular, lots of chances for championship implications with this type of track, because you never know when a big incident could strike.
Yeah, and I was looking over here, they were doing some double file and the single file restarts. It got a little bit messy in the double file. Imagine in the single file got a little bit safer. Can't wait to see what those single file restarts can actually happen, because that's where the action, I think, is going to be more and more packed than the double files, because you're going to have to rely on drive quite so much, and the full throttling on your pedal will be key to avoid that air wash pushing you into the wall. So those restarts are going to be essential for those who are claiming a victory spot here on this Wisconsin track. Sorry, on this Michigan track.
Yes, indeed. Under 50 seconds to go in final practice. How critical do you feel qualifying is going to be for this race? You mentioned that you feel like this is a track where you can cut your way to the field. How much do you want the track position, though, here at qualifying for Michigan?
If you're, for me, I probably would have wanted to qualify in the top 10. Anywhere but around the top 10. I wouldn't say lead is the best thing you can do because you're going to be basically the prime target in the first 5 laps in this race, and trying to defend it can be a little bit tricky. You have to be prepared to get that aggression from the other drivers. Top 10, maybe like 5th, 6th, 7th. You can relax a little bit, get on the back pedal, try to save that fuel. And it's quite of a lengthy stint. So the drivers, if they play it smart, they can go like 3, 4, 5 laps ahead of the other drivers. And again, launch themselves, propel themselves into prime spots all the way towards the end of the race.
The lap times turn, by the way, in final practice for tonight, as quick as 31.996 seconds, 32 flats from a majority of the pack with the help of the draft. But it's time for qualifying. 5 minutes, 2 solo qualifying laps determine where the drivers will start here at Michigan International Speedway. Now, keep in mind, tonight is going to be very critical when it comes to these drivers for qualifying to figure out how they get the line together, Renzo. What line do you take here some of these drivers?
I think the line off the pit lane most probably will be the higher line, because you can actually build up the more speed into the higher line. Just launch yourself into in and then outline can be a little bit tricky because you still have cold tires and you can lose performance out of it. So staying on the outside line, it builds up the speed and builds up a little bit of the heat on the right side tires. After that, you can actually attack a little bit more the inside and just let the car carry out. I think that will be the prime position for this qualifying for you to get a good lap.
Currently, several drivers are making their way onto the racetrack for qualifying. Matt Houston was the quickest of the drivers, by the way, in practice in the 66. Alexis Newsom, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Chris Fowler, Chris Stouffer were your top 5 on the board. Now, keep in mind, 2 drivers tonight will not be able to make qualifying runs due to ELL penalties for a Lionheart competition. Those drivers, Chris Stouffer, Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Chris's is from earlier rounds, Nunez from Worldwide Technology Raceway. So keep that in mind for tonight's qualifying. As we get ready to follow along with some of these drivers as they make their way around the racetrack. And here is Joe Branch on his first lap for qualifying. It was middle of the pack in practice. Curious to see how he runs as he runs the high line to carry some momentum, Lorenzo, early.
Yeah, so carrying that momentum early, you know, you can be a little bit aggressive on the inside line if you want to. You know, you're going to see riding that middle high line, mostly staying near as close to the wall as you can, because that's where you get a really good runoff. If you want to go more aggressive, now you're going to see him running all the way towards the apron, nearly towards the apron, that wide line, and trying to maximize the speed out of that Dallara DW12.
And the one main thing too is those seams can be very critical, because especially if you run underneath the first seam, a lot of drivers in some types of cars can get fairly loose here at this track. You need to trust in the downforce to be able to make it stick down there. You can see he's having a hard time making it stick below the first seams in throughout the corners. 12th the first time around in qualifying. The second time around, he'll move himself a little bit higher into the board, 32.4. It's his time as we take a look at Ken Hacker now make his way around the racetrack. He's on his second lap with 2 minutes to go.
At Ken Hacker, let's see what line he will actually take. I think that will be the inside line for the number 24 of the Synergy Motorsports Black. Try go a little, the car gets a little bit loose on the mid portion between 2 and 3 and 4. Now riding the apron, that is out to completely legal, so you can maximize the lap. Lap will be
tied for second, in fact.
Yeah.
Tied with Tony Schauman, in fact, with a 32.390. The quickest time, Chris Fowler currently a 32.379 in qualifying. Georgian Zarzel making a start tonight, looking to perform well. You can see he's been able to make the bottom stick and went a little bit early onto the apron that time. We'll lose him some time. In fact, he backed out of it as we go to Nick DeGroot, who's had some solid runs throughout the season so far, Renzo.
And Nick DeGroot has been a guy that we've probably been watching for a few races now that has been climbing up the spots and been making some rounds here on this championship. Let's see what line he will take into the first lap. That will be the high line, normal line. So he will try to maximize the exit out of that so he can grab the most speed. And now you're going to see the gradual decline into the lower portion of the track, riding the apron, trying to maximize the speed that you get from the descent, and then try to propel himself into a middle hole low line into turn number 1 and 2.
One of the final drivers at the time, Robert Malechka, also on track. Charles Teed also on the circuit. Both Matt Wagner all trying to set qualifying times in the final 30 seconds. We'll follow along with the group. See Sector 1, 16.217. Where will he be when we get to the start and finish line is the big question. As he runs that apron once more. Nick DeGroot, 18th on the first lap, top of the board, to a 32.373. That moves him to the pole with 10 seconds remaining.
A great lap from DeGroot. I was feeling that that was actually going to be a good lap, but great run from DeGroot.
An even better run from Robert Malechka. You'll see why in just a moment as the drivers have wrapped up qualifying here at MIS. It's time to take a look at your starting grid, presented by Butt Kicker. On the pole tonight, Robert Malechka with a 32.348. That was in the final second of qualifying. Factory packed gets a 1-2 for the front row with Nick DeGroot. Chris Fowler and Tony Schowen start in row 2 tonight, with Ken Hacker with one of his best qualifying runs of the season in 5th. Alexander Vandersant will start in 6th position, with Trevor Malone just behind him in 7th. Lexus Newsome will round out the top 8 with Ron Hacker and Joe Branch inside the top 10. Alex Gouillon and Craig Forsyth will start 11th and 12th, with Matt Taylor, known for his speed in a lot of races this season, in 13th. Adam Young with one of his best starting positions this season in 14th. Dane Mull, the winner of the season opener, will start 15th alongside Christopher Kriegsky. Then, Miguel Hagstrom in 17th position, with Vern Hawkins III in 18th position. Matt Wagner, Barrett Rolfe, again deep in the field in qualifying, rounds out the top 20. The last driver to record a time in qualifying was George Anzaldo with a 32.982. The rest of the drivers did not set times in qualifying. AJ Musselman will start 22nd. Nunez will start towards the back of the field, originally slot 23rd. Jeff Gion will start 24th. Chris Stouffer 25th. Also, Paul Jenkins will start towards the back of the field. Jason Galvin, Matt Houston, Brian Beard in his season debut, Charles Teed, and Mike Rigney are among your final 30-plus cars on your starting grid for tonight. That's a look at your starting grid presented by Butt Kicker for tonight. Let's get the chance to look at some of your onboard cameras as these drivers get ready to roll out from the pit lane. First, with the HyperX on board, it's Barrett Rolfe. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. With the Butt Kicker on board, in the number 6 machine, it's George Anzaldo. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com. Again, that's the number 6 machine. George Anzaldo, who will carry that on board for tonight.
For Sim Experience, there will be Matt Taylor, the number 8 car. Sim Experience, makers of the AccuForce Pro V2 Direct Drive steering system. For more information, visit simexperience.com. And finally, for Carnox, there will be the Robert Malechka, the number 91. Carnox, makers of the finest esports gaming chairs. We've got your back. Visit carnox.com.
That's a look at your onboard cameras, especially for these drivers tonight. And as these drivers roll down the back straightaway, your keys to victory tonight, Lorenzo.
Patience, save your fuel. And some of the driver said, send. If you're in the front, send. It's
going to make things very intriguing here for tonight for the Lionheart Speedway Series. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start. All set to go for the HyperX Michigan 200. Who will take home the checker flag in this 100-lap affair? We're about to find out. It's factory-backed, 1 and 2 on the front row. iRacing pace car makes its way off of turn 4 and into the pit lane. Robert Malechka III will lead the field to green as we are underway from Michigan. And a great start by Robert Malechka III, already holding on to the lead for now. That's the key point as Nick DeGroot side by side with Tony Schowen. They start scrapping behind them as Chris Fowler starts to make it 3 wide down the backstretch.
I think he got a little bit tricky that the 3 wide into the backstretch heading to turn number 3, but so far Nick DeGroot retaining that P2 out of the field now on the chase on Robert Malechka III.
Robert Malechka will lead the first lap of the race, and the big thing when it comes to some of these runs, we're talking up to 5 miles an hour difference. It's going to be very difficult as a result, Lorenzo, to decide when do you take the run or when do you elect to stay behind.
Yeah, you really don't want to be overly aggressive whenever the tires burn down, so if you go for prime opportunity overtaking spots, this is it. This is where the freshest rubber, you know, the rubber is fresh. So go for the sends every time you actually get the opportunity. Then if you actually get the opportunity with the wasted rubber, you have to have clear conscious of the moves that you're making, otherwise it can get really dangerous.
Looks like Malechka wanting to defend to the bottom of the racetrack to root the middle of the racetrack. Tony Schowen trying to fight for third still with Chris Fowler. One thing to know, remember Barrett Rolfe, he started all the way in the back in about 20th position. Guess who's already a +7 as your biggest mover in 2.5 laps and already in the lead pack?
It's not just +7, it is actually +8 because he just managed to overtake Adam Young at the finish line. Already going into the bottom line, chasing the leaders.
See your biggest movers and some of the biggest droppers so far in the early stages of this race. Barrett Rolfe taking it 3 wide up the middle in the main pack. He's really trying to utilize those fresh tires to get up to Malechka and DeGroot.
Yeah, now on the low side of Alex Newsom, he is actually going to get a good run. Nearly clinging for the 3 wide once again. Getting a good run right behind Trevor Malone.
Scariano Sport Machine, you see him on the right side of your screen, taking it 3 wide again and again full send. He's already into the second row of the main pack. What a run by Rolfe in the span of 5 laps now. He's made it into the top 5 from 20th position.
Had to be checked up a little bit by Nick DeGroot on the entry at turn number 3, but what a start from that number 33 car to Barrett Rolfe.
Can he keep it going is the question. Another big run. He'll drive by Fowler. Yes, he can. Taking it 3 wide for the race lead. He wants to go to the point. Can he get it done? Yes, he can. Barrett Rolfe up 19 spots in about 5 to 6 laps. Wow.
Are you Paddle Warrior or something like that, Barrett Rolfe? I can totally see Paddle Warrior in you, son.
Absolutely incredible from Barrett Rolfe. Now it's the question of how he plays things now he's up at the front. Keep in mind, you talked about fuel numbers. It's expected to be a 3-stopper for today's race, with stops expected by 30, 60, and 90. We'll have to see how things break down as Fowler tries to take away the race lead and does.
Yeah, but here comes the Barrett Rolfe on the outside once again, try to take the lead out of Fowler. And they're going to go side by side into 3. The run usually gives the advantage to the guys who's up top. And we see how Fowler defends that one.
Lining up is Barrett Rolfe now that he's got the track position. It looks like he's going to elect to save fuel for the time being. Malechka peeking out to the right side. And now it starts to get to where the aero wash can come into play a little bit, it looks like.
I got a little bit dicey on the back of the field right about P10, P12. Because the guys have to check up one another. A few guys losing a few spots over there.
So now how do you play this if you're Barrett Rolfe? You've got the track position. You made the impressive charge to the field in just the span of a couple laps. Do you just ride along and save the gas like you were talking about? Or do you want to lead and then try and maybe set the tempo for the field?
I probably would try to set the tempo for the field, but then again, you're playing with some very strange forces if you try to overdrive this car. This is the track that doesn't take overdriving way too well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Barrett Rolf just stays tucked in, plays conservative to try to save that field, try to go for that 30 lap range, but I don't think he's going to. Maybe 28 laps might be the range for him, but it looks okay.
Vern Hawkins III is also charged up to the field along with Christopher to move through the pack in double-digit positions gained. Hawkins III is trying to follow the tire tracks of the 33. You see him in the middle. Some impressive drives from some of these competitors where they're taking the runs where they can come and get them once more. That's Hawkins III diving to the bottom to make it 3 wide in the corner.
One other driver you should be keeping an eye on is Chris Dofer over here, Justin. Coming from P25 all the way up into P10, rounding out the top 9, the P9 in Alex Vinderson, trying to look on the inside.
Just at the very edge of the shot to the right side. They settle back on down for the time being, 2 by 2 now. Stouffer, rather, is that car that's lined up right behind Craig Forsyth's light blue and white machine on the bottom line. Already coming up to 89 laps to go in the HyperX Michigan 200. Been incredible so far, to say the very least. Chris Fowler, your leader. Barrett Rolf in second. Then Malone, Malechka, Hawkins the third among your top 5 as you look at the car knocks on board.
And what a run from Terrell Malone here. Justin on the outside might take the lead out of Fowler over here.
Here we go, side by side. Can he complete the pass the long way around is the big question. It seems if you can get yourself underneath the first seam and make it stick, you can get yourself a separation to get the position done and the pass done in clean air. But Malone's able to get the crossover. He takes the lead into turn 1.
And Hawkins clinging for P2 as well. Got the run on Barrett Rolf. Now trying to get a run on Fowler. Might get the exit out of the backstretch.
These drivers definitely not settling down. This is absolutely incredible so far in the early stages. Rolf is elected to move all the way up to the wall in all of this. As well, though, keep in mind, Christopher, you talked about him. He's now starting to make some charges in the bottom line, electing to save. And some of these drivers, keep in mind, that we're seeing making these charges are normally some of the contenders who usually save at this point of the race. Try and save their equipment and save fuel. They're trying to go full out here. In fact, they're starting to snake their way down the back straightaway a little bit for the race lead again. Hawkins III really wanting to pick up the draft off of Trevor Malone. Malone not wanting to give up the race lead.
Not far behind Christopher P5. He's just right behind Craig Forsyth. So that number 13 car looking very juicy in this early portion of the race for lap 15. Still have a long ways to go.
And already midway through the fuel run. And keep in mind, this pit entry could be very difficult to try and enter because of this pack. The whole field just about is in this grouping. 25 cars separated by 2 seconds at the stripe.
Insane. Well, Hawkins got checked up by Malone in the exit out of 2. That will bring Forsyth now into P2.
Forsyth able to take advantage of the situation, but not able to clear him by fully. Hawkins the third keeping the momentum up on that second line, and this is allowing Malone to pull away by a little bit. Is this too much of a pull away, though? 226 miles an hour at the start and finish line for Forsyth.
And also, like we said, the pole lapper or the pole sitter is on the top 10, but is not within league contention. Malechka right now P8 and trying to battle for P7 so far.
Side by side, though, for the race lead. Once again, wheel to wheel. Christopher's jumped up to third. He's trying to pick up the draft of these machines. At the stripe, it's Malone that gets the lead lap, though. As we start the 18th circuit around Michigan International Speedway, Forsyth, the long way, goes back single file. As Stouffer now tries to line things up to take advantage.
Try to use side drive cam. We got 3 wide. Yeah, we got a yellow flag.
Caution. Down the back straightaway, it's Ron Hacker who spins around from 15th position. We're under yellow for the first time tonight after contact between him and Jason Galvin.
Oof.
And this is the concern once you get to this type of racing, is how aggressive some of these drivers can be and how tight the confines can be on the corner exits in particular. And so that may have been a factor here as we'll take a look at the replay on the corner exit. Watch the 3 wide move on the exit.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was an intentional 3 wide, though. I think Galvin had a really good run on the number 28. Over here, that was Joe Branch, but he got so pinched in on the outside and basically got sandwiched. Unfortunately, Ken Hacker was on the outside, and it became kind of a collateral damage of this pinched in incident.
Or for Hacker to go, as you'll see. Not expecting that situation, gets spun around. Galvin ends up getting damage to his respective car. Significant damage to the 42 from the incident. What puts us under yellow for the first time. And again, we're inside our first fuel window. It was 10 to 30 laps. We were expecting our first stops to make it a 3-stop race. And it looks like everybody going to come on in just about here.
And not surprised one bit. If someone stays out, you're a courageous guy, because this is a very packed pit lane. Just watch your sectors, boys. This can get really crowded, and positions can be made up pretty easily on how you get in and get out of your pit lane. And there are some drivers actually staying on track.
Matt Houston, AJ Musselman staying out this time by. This is a quick yellow racetrack. Keep in mind, here at Michigan on the iRacing service. Off and away, a close race off the pit lane. Who got it first? I believe Trevor Malone, as you see, the 33 having to check up. He's back in 8th position on the race off the pit lane. 6 net off the lane.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say, maybe biggest loser here might be either Alexis Newsom or even Robert Malechka being bumped up all the way down to P12. Newsom bumped up all the way up, all the way down into P13.
Intriguing, absolutely. Hearing George Zoldo having to drop to the end of the longest line as well with his pit lane. But we'll see if Houston and Musselman elect to stay out on the racetrack with the quick yellow procedures, or if they end up coming down for fuel. Keep in mind, chance to lead some laps by staying out here on the racetrack. They would have to come down in 10 laps. Either way, if they were to stay out. This brings us to 80 laps to go, and as expected, they'll come down this time.
And not surprised one bit, by the way. We got our possible first DNF of the race. Ron Hacker did his pit stop, but apparently he had some suspension damage, and the side pod on his left-hand side is still damaged, so he might be on the pit lane for a little bit longer. Had to tow back the car into the pits. That might be race done for the number 21.
He's having a hard time keeping the car straight after the incident that sent him all the way down to the apron with that off of turn 2. But the lights are out on top of the iRacing pace car. Trevor Malone, your race leader, followed by Craig Forsyth, Chris Stouffer, Chris Fowler, Vern Hawkins the third, Barrett Rolfe, Tony Shelwyn, Van der Sant, DeGroot, Malechka. Now your top 10. Alexis Newsom -3 on the race is in 11th. Dean Mall is in 12th. Biggest mover, Chris Stouffer, +22 in 3rd spot. Your thoughts on how this race has played out so far, Renzo?
Played a little bit more aggressive than I thought it would, because if you look on the top 10, there are barely any guys on the top 10 that started within the top 10 that are actually still in the top 10. Forsyth started 12th, Stouffer started 20th, 5th, Vern Hawkins 18th, Barrett Rolfe 20th, Musselman 20th, 2nd. So the guys from the back are actually making those moves work, and they're getting it done.
Can they get the moves done? Even more so this run. Clouds starting to settle over the racetrack, dipping the track temperature a little bit more. It's at 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Green flag waves, and Trevor Malone had the checkup for the pace car. Bit of a delayed start there for the 69 machine on that launch, as that slows up the pack a little bit.
It quite got chaotic between Stouffer, Fowler, and Hawkins because each driver had to check up on one another.
Christopher able to take advantage for the race lead for now. 3 wide for third position. 3 wide now for the lead. Hawkins, the third, wants to leapfrog himself. Move the 25 to the race lead. And what a restart this time. Hawkins, the third, 20th in points entering tonight's race.
And now there's a little bit of a separation between car packs because now we have about 10 car pack between each and every driver. Other than that, there is about a second that separates the second pack of drivers, and then right about another second that separates the second and third pack of drivers.
So little small groupings are starting to form up as a result of a single file restart with 78 laps to go. By the way, for Vern Hawkins III, these are his first lead laps of the season in this series. Trevor Malone wants the lead back, trying to make it work in the middle line. Able to make it stick in 1 and 2 this time as Forsyth joins the fray. Tony Shalin also joining the forefront once more of the fight. Chris Stouffer, after that huge launch, off and one doing the restart, got shuffled all the way back 7.
And I would look for Tony Shalin to actually make any moves because he's going to get a run. Probably will have an overlap on the outside. There he goes. Might go for the lead.
Big run on the 31 machine, utilizing the third line, in fact, this time. Can he make it stick to be able to pull off the run? No, in fact, he'll be swamped 3 wide once again for third position. Christopher, a huge run, checks up. Tony Shalin forced to check up. Bit of contact, in fact, as Trevor Malone shuffled up the racetrack. That'll move him outside the top 8.
Now brings Alex Vander Sand on the inside of Trevor Malone. We'll make the move actually stick. We'll go up a spot. But look at the checkup of all because of the confusion.
Oh, and they wreck at the front of the field. Caution is out for the second time, and it's a big one. The race leaders collide, and they are still wrecking in 1 and 2.
Wow.
Christopher takes the lead from that, and boy, oh boy, does that change a lot with some of these contenders involved. Craig Forsyth gets contact. Hawkins the third, and it collects several more in 1 and 2. Some drivers sent for some wild rides, others in the aftermath picking up contact from the second and third packs.
Yeah, let's look at the replay and try to analyze what happened because looking over here from my perspective, the number 72 of Craig Forsyth got really close to number 25 out of Vern Hawkins and basically touching wheels. Once you touch the rear wheels with one another, it's very hard to control your car, especially at 210 miles per hour, 220 miles per hour. The crash was inbound and inevitable to happen.
A lot of hard contact you've seen in the aftermath. Kel Hagstrom, Matt Wagner, Chris Fowler, Trevor Malone, Craig Forsyth among the drivers already down the pit lane. And already several drivers having their damage looked at too. Vern Hawkins, the third, significant side pod damage. You do not want to get damage here at Michigan.
No. And you cannot get it back once you try to repair that thing on the pit lane. So whenever that thing opens, Hawkins actually coming with the pit lane. I think still close. He might get a penalty out of this, but the repairs will be necessary. So for him, the damage is done. So why a penalty? The penalty, I think, is the least of his problems.
And the big thing is your points leader, Tony Shalin, blew his motor from the incident. That's how hard the 31 got hit in all of that. That's going to really shake up the points. Here's an error look from Christopher. Just able to snake his way on through that as that quickly developed in front of him.
Okay, let's look at Barrett Rolfe and see from his perspective because he actually got away with it just in the nick of time. Because look at the cars going below and then going up top, and Barrett was just sticking to the inside. Good call by the spotter to make him on the inside line and avoid that potential wreck that could end his race.
But the time of the yellow flag, keep in mind, several drivers elected to come down and top off on fuel. 7th on back came down for service. Vern Hawkins third despite the side pod damage. The first of the drivers off the lane. Vanderstant, Mal, Malechka, Newsom. On your top 5 in the lane, Christopher, DeGroot, Rolf, Branch, and Zaldo, Tony Schowen staying out that sequence at the moment on the racetrack. Keep in mind the 31 expected to come down with the significant wing damage and at one point was spraying smoke up from the 31 machine. Currently scored 6. In fact, one air driver, Matt Wagner, will come down this time around as well, as this definitely changes the complexion of this race because that's a decent chunk of our field, Lorenzo, and a lot of your contenders and some of your top point standings drivers involved in that one. As some of the drivers said, championship implications coming into play.
Yeah, championship implications coming into play, and you know who's going to say thank you very much about that incident with Tony Schowen? Alex Newsom. She's still on track, so she's right about on the top 10, P9 for her right now. So, well, every mistake that the leader will make, she will capitalize in it, and if she finishes the race, there is a good chance she might be the points leader by the end of this race.
Going to be very critical, and one thing to note, we talked about this a little bit, the debut of Brian Beard in this series. Lionheart veteran. He's made his way up 17 positions. The 05 machine has kept things very calm and quiet, and you can see the results then. Jeff Gion is an air driver that you can also put in that group of competitors who stayed at the back, Lorenzo, now taking advantage of the attrition.
Yeah, you know, this is why I said sometimes just being on the middle of the pack can benefit you a little bit. You know, you can benefit from those accidents, from saving fuel. So those guys who, you know, just played patient, didn't get overly aggressive, getting benefited by this. Brian Beard, what did he do so far as we go for the restart?
It's still for DeGroot, Rolf, Branch, and Zaldo, Hawkins III, Mal, Malechka, Newsom, Kresge, the top 10. iRacing pace car is off. Still for stack in the box this time. Green flag waves, back on her way. A great launch from the 13.
Smart restart, very smart restart from Stoffer, leaving to the very split second to actually launch that car.
Question's going to be, how will the runs fare from DeGroot and Rolf from behind? They're already closing in fairly significantly. Stoffer elects to just stay along the safer barrier as Rolf, along with DeGroot, dive to the bottom. DeGroot to the lead. Yeah. Caution flag waves again. Charles Teed amongst the drivers in it. Dean Mull upside down in turns 3 and 4. Ken Hacker also involved.
Apparently, the incident started with the number 25 and the number 23 on the entry of turn number 3. Hacker was just a collateral damage on that incident.
Keep in mind, Hawkins III, we talked about this, had major side pod damage and had been the first driver off the pit lane of those who came down for service. See right there, wow.
Nothing to do, but that's unfortunate. The number 25 just got really close with the number 23. I think that Dean Mull was on the outside lane and Vern Hawkins was on the inside. Nothing that they could do. That was kind of like just the flow of the track kind of getting them all together. An unfortunate contact between both drivers and Hacker being caught right in the middle of it. That's race done for Ken Hacker, by the way.
Hagstrom and Fowler among the drivers also already out of the race. Trevor Malone also plenty behind the wall. As Vern Hawkins III, significant damage from that. Barrett Rolfe will elect to come down this time by and top off. Joe Branch, Brian Beard, Adam Young, Charles Teed also coming down for service. That cycles DeGroot into the race lead. Now that the attrition level is starting to pick up a little bit, Renzo, how do you try to attack this race now, knowing there's going to be some drivers on different strategies, there's going to be drivers with damage? How do you try and tackle that now as competitors?
It's interesting, you know, those off strategies can play part a little bit. I saw a race where the guys on a more aggressive off strategy, you know, trying to stretch out the field more than usual, actually got us some better run. I can totally see as we're looking to Luis Gonzalez Nunez, nearly getting away with it. Unfortunate for Luis, just getting tagged on the right side tire and being sent to the wall. But I think this is one of the few tracks where if you want to go for the overcut, it usually works. So hey, if you can stretch it out again, play it safe, stretch it out as much as you can. Those 30 laps of fuels, or 30 or 28 laps of fuel, you can get it within a really good range to make that at the end of this race.
In regards to Luis Gonzalez Nunez and the luck that has been non-existent, unfortunately, for his season in Lionheart, it has been a campaign where the last time he was on track, it was his best finish, his first top 10 at Worldwide Technology Raceway, is 7th place. Before that, 31st at Phoenix, 22nd in Atlanta after issues, 29th at Homestead after a DNF, 24th at Milwaukee after early incidents, 35th at Texas after a DNF, Twin Ring Motegi 15th, where he ended up leading 8 laps. It's not been Luis Gonzalez Nunez's season, unfortunately.
No, he has been not the best season for Luis Nunez, and that's unfortunate. You know, we've been seeing him always clinging up to those top 5 spots, playing it smart with the pit strategies as well, playing as well with the draft and making those moves in the appropriate times. But always there's an incident here and there fourth that is getting him off guard, and he's not being able to capitalize on those races.
Now it's the matter of seeing who can capitalize on this race. Matt Houston, AJ Musselman, Matt Wagner taking additional service of more than 20 seconds apiece, 18th through 20th. This upcoming restart. Wagner is 1 lap down at the moment. The driver's off track. Ken Hacker, Dean Mall, Nunez, Shawan, Fowler, Forsyth, Hagstrom, Malone, Galvin, Hacker, and Paul Jenkins, unfortunately, did not make it to the green flag. Top 10 for the restart. DeGroot, Stouffer, Ansaldo, Malechka, Kresge, Newsom, Gion, Taylor, Rigney, with a quiet race from 30th starting position. Alex Guillon, the top 10.
Wow.
Some impressive runs mixed in throughout the attrition. Nick DeGroot had controlled the field. The HyperX Michigan 200 is back underway, and another good launch, this time by the factory-backed car. Able to pull away by 3 car lengths, but as we've seen, those runs from second on back are huge here at Michigan.
Yeah, we can see already the Adrenaline Motorsports driver out of Stouffer going on the inside. Aggressive move by Stouffer to take away the lead. Actually, I think taking away the lead for the first time for Stouffer.
And Zaldo actually following his way on through as well. Up 19 positions on the race. An impressive move there as here comes DeGroot wanting that spot back. DeGroot diving his way back to the race lead in the factory-backed machine as they go 2 to 3 wide behind. The lead pack featuring about 7 cars at the moment as they start to swap draft.
Now Stouffer back into the lead, and now Kresge. I think that is Malechka or Kresge trying to go. Kresge going on the inside for P2, but he has no one to share draft with, so he's going to become victim. Now back into the grid, going for the lead.
Groot with another swap back to the point. Kresge now joining the fray as they start to go offset 2 wide. Once the pack now back single file as they carry speeds of 228 plus miles an hour down the straightaway. Stouffer back to the lead, bringing Kresge with them.
And just to let you know here, Justin, we could actually see a 8-car or 9-car battle, because Matt Taylor and Mike Ridgely are not far behind. They're swapping draft, trying to get close within that 7-car pack, so we can see the number 00 and the number 8 getting closer.
Here's your bot kicker on board as Ansaldo has a perfect view in the popcorn seat for the battle for the race lead. Stouffer, another dive to take over the race lead in the 13. DeGroot again lines back up in second down the front stretch. And it seems like that seems at least to be the pattern. Keep in mind that the top 3 all stayed out the past couple caution flags. Drivers such as the Karnoks on board of Malechka ended up coming in about 2 cautions ago. Everyone else came down the last yellow flag.
The first driver with the new tires is actually Barry Rove, like you said, but he's all the way up to P11. Just got overtaken by Alex Guillon, which has about 10 laps in his stint of tires. So they're also trying to swap draft, lead that third pack of cars into the 2 car that are ahead of him, and maybe clean things up and try to get closer to the leaders.
Yeah, some of those drivers you talked about, Ralph Guillon, Branch and company, are more than 2-3 seconds behind the swap for the race lead. And it seems the pattern, De Groot down the front, Stouffer down the back at the moment. As a driver, how do you try and break up that pattern if you elect to do so, knowing you're going back and forth like this once more for the race lead, but it's very difficult to keep said lead to get the lead laps?
I think because it is the custom fixed setups that makes everything packed up. If you are like on different setups, then maybe you can try to strategize something. As now we see Stouffer back again going for the lead, and maybe Gonzalo as well. You're trying to look for something, but didn't have enough room for it to make a move.
Here comes De Groot once again with the run, coming up to 60 laps to go. 40 laps in this time by De Groot. This time will get the lead lap. 17 1/1000ths of a second. Impressive run from De Groot. Qualified well, has had speed, 22nd in the points entering tonight. That's despite 3 top 10s on the season in 5 starts.
Now Krasky getting a little bit of an aggressive run on the bottom line, but he won't have any swap to... some draft to share now, who's going to go back to P4 because Alonso back to P3.
Continuing to shuffle about now. They align back up single file and get themselves towards the rhythm mark. It seems at the very least the swap is going to go back and forth for the next while at the front. What do you think's going through the minds of the air drivers, especially knowing that some of them like Enzoto and Kresge want to go and try and gain spots for themselves, but others are seeming like they're nice and comfortable staying single file watching this?
I think Gonzalo, to be very honest with you, he's comfortably staying in P3 and maybe swapping drive with Kresge because he's also saving fuel. So the thing he's having to do is just time those swaps pretty much nice and neatly and just give space to the exit out of 3 and 4 to avoid any possible crashes, because now Kresge is on the inside and he will get P3 once again.
Right now, the lap times 32.2s to 32.3s for this group. The second pack, we talked about that a little bit a while ago. Currently 3.4 seconds back right behind these two. This is currently Mike Rickney, Matt Taylor, who are closing in a 10th a lap. So they are actually within drafting distance to make it a 9-car pack all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think for them, they need to be right about 8 or 7/10ths of a second of Alexis Newsom, and then maybe actually start clinging for bigger things. But they're closing. It is a very closely contested battle for gaps because they're pretty much doing equal laps.
They're being very smart on this catch-up to try and get to the rest of the pack just right now within that 1 second distance, continuing to swap draft. 32.3s once again for them last time by. Keep in mind that another couple seconds back as well from them is Barrett Rolfe, Alex Guillon, Joe Branch, and Alexander Vandersen. You see in the backdrop, those drivers are losing ground to these two as well as the main pack.
At 32.5 the last lap for Barrett Rolfe. Let's see what this lap will be. Is a 32.5. So I don't have a proper explanation to see what made Barrett Rolfe and the guys on that pack to lose pace to Matt Taylor, Mike Ridgely, and the guys in the 7 other cars up in the lead pack. But still a long race to go. We're nearly halfway done. But everything can change because it did change one time. Why not change it again?
Keep in mind, scheduled stops are approaching for Stouffer, De Groot, and Zoldo for their respective strategy. They continue to swap back and forth. Those drivers are now 27 laps into their stint. See, when they elect to duck on down, it'd still be a one-stopper regardless for the most of the field. Just a matter of when they come down. And here's the key part, who you're with, Lorenzo, because do you want to be in a big pack as a result of a pit party, or do you want to get a smaller group? What's your preference as a driver to try and enter the pit lane here at Michigan and in turn come out with some drivers?
Big group. All the way.
Bigger the better.
Yeah, the more the bigger the better, the more the merrier. So it can help you with the draft, you know, just make things complicated for the guy ahead of you. Then you can save the fuel. And for example, Newsom, she's on the back of that pack. If this was the final laps, she would be in a prime spot to be more aggressive than the other guys, would get the better runs, and would probably benefit from the guys up in the front having a few RG-bargies, and let's just say yellow flash, you can get benefited by it.
Our move by the yellow and white machine of the group to the front, but yes, I agree with you on that one. It's just going to be the matter, though, of if we get green flag stops, how difficult do you feel it's going to be to get up to speed? Because drivers were close to significant contact with that when practicing that prior to tonight's race.
It depends on how close you are to the other individuals and how well you are on clean air pace, you know, to get closer to the guy ahead of you. So if I'm one of these guys, if I pit, I want to be as perfect as you can with your pit lane and try to maximize your assets so you can get within the draft or within the reality of the draft and just let your tires do the job.
See how this all goes now as we approach halfway this time by. It's Chris Stouffer now in the lead for now with Nick de Groot battling with him, and Zoldo has now dropped back a little bit behind them in terms of space in third. Will George and Zoldo go for a run? No, he elects to stay single file as de Groot takes the point back down the straightaway.
And Krasny trying to go for the inside run, but I think he didn't get a really good run into it. Meanwhile, Stouffer is now back into the lead.
Is there a go mark in this type of a pack, knowing you have to come in the next couple laps, but also for some of these drivers to try and leapfrog your way to the pack? It seems Kresge might be trying that leapfrog now, and Zoldo will give him some space. Kresge will try and jump up a couple cars and move into second. Can't get himself fully clear, though, as Stouffer keeps it side by side down the back.
Oh, late move by Stouffer on the inside. That was a little bit tricky, but he made it work.
Diving it nearly into the left rear tire of de Groot, trying to send it in. They're now 33 laps into their respective stint. De Groot back to the inside for the race lead. Kresge, as a result of his move, he's been shuffled to the back of the line, all the way to 7th position in the lead pack.
Yeah, and by the way, here about one thing, Justin, the lead pack has actually managed to distance themselves away from the second pack, but because of this aggressiveness out of the drivers, gap between Kresge and Mike Regnier or Matt Taylor is now declined to about 1.9 seconds.
10th on back, already 5 seconds behind all this. Karnak's on board, you see. Mochka up to 4th position. No signal yet from the drivers who have stayed out the past couple yellow flags in your top 3. Once more, Stouffer to the point into turn 3. And Zoldo, nowhere to go quite yet with the run with the arrow wash.
And just judging over here, we had our green flag, I think, on lap 34, lap 33 or 34. So they are approaching the fuel gate. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe if they pit on lap 60, maybe 62. And for those who are full fuel saving like Anzado, maybe 35, 65 might be the range.
We'll have to see. It is a 30 lap run estimate on the fuel for tonight's race. As side by side for second now. And Zoldo got a chance to go side by side with de Groot. Couldn't make the pass work, though. Lines up behind the 89. The 89 wants the lead back again. Again, the swap draft. Again, the change for the lead for now. And Zoldo now changing up his line, trying to get that also important clean air. De Groot has indicated on the radio he's coming in this time.
I said that pretty much that makes a two-stop race for the majority of the drivers. As now we see the grid being the first car within that lead path coming into the pit lane. Again, those different strategies that can then make it work, because from the way it looks, the way that they're aggressive, we could totally see a yellow flag coming into this race, but I've been wrong so many times before. And we can see Stouffer and Anzado also are going to come into the pit lane on this lap.
That was to be expected. They were able to stretch it with the caution flags up to 38 laps, Anzado and Stouffer. Tough part is, they still have to make it a one more stop either way. Those drivers now move to the bottom, and that moves Jeff Gion to the race lead. Newsom to second. Kresge, Malechka, Taylor, Rigney. Now your main pack. And those drivers are now 30 laps into their stint with the caution laps as Newsom, with the move, squeezes up Gion for the race lead.
Talk about being opportunistic, right? Remember when I said that Newsom was in a prime position? There she goes, and that's why she's the two-time race winner here. One of the two drivers that are multiple race winners on the Speedway series, and she doesn't have any signs of slowing down. But look who's on the bottom line. That goes Kresge.
And that 18 machine has lost a bit of ground. So has Malechka, Taylor, Rigney, as they'll pass on by the drivers coming out of the pit lane. Soto will lose a lap from his service. Chris Stouffer will come out just in front of these cars, just about. He's the one on the left side, you see, right in the middle of the lead battle for the pack.
And this is the cool thing for me now, Justin, that we can see the drop off in the tires, right? And see how much of a performance Stouffer will get and clear himself out of Kresge, because he will actually unlap himself. Now, eyes on Stouffer, how well that tire will perform on clean air for himself.
Waiting for the signal for this respective group. These drivers who are now at 33 laps this time by are expected to come in fairly soon. This would make it 40 laps to go or less for their respective stints. Everyone else topped off under the last caution flag, remember. That's an offset of about 5 laps for those drivers. Nick de Groot drives on by with Chris Stouffer. Kresge shuffled up to the top of the racetrack, and Zoldo trying to find his way on by as well as they start to swap draft in front of your leader. Kresge nearly made it 3 wide as Zoldo dives to the bottom.
Yeah, Kresge with a little bit of an opportunistic move on the drivers, but couldn't capitalize in it. He had the run, but it was blocked off pretty much quickly. And now you can see Kresge try to go for it. Now Newsom is on the inside. She's going to go for it.
Side by side for the lead, right behind Anzado and the butt kicker on board. Cam, you see him try and utilize the high line for some clean air. Signals are starting to come in from this pack. Matt Taylor will come in this time by. Coming up to 38 laps to go. So the pit stop window is now open for the drivers who pit a couple cautions ago. And some early pit entries just in the backdrop of this battle going on in front of your race leaders. Taylor and Rigney both came down. How does this impact your psyche as a driver, knowing you got the battle for the tail end of the lead lap in front of you as the race leader, but you also have to think about your stop?
And this is tricky for me because I can totally see some tricky situations. I think Kresge is going to come in for the pit lane over here, and for those who are pitting right now, I'm looking 35 laps. This is as far as you might get on the range. Maybe 36. Look, if we can actually save 36 laps on a full green flag stint, maybe we can start considering, could they go in full save for the field for the final of the race? Let's see.
Your strategy has been very critical in a lot of these races this season. Adam Young has indicated he's coming Barrett Rolfe this time, Kresge this time. So the window is wide open with 36 to go. That would be about 6 laps shy of making it on fuel to the end. Most of the field likely will have to come one more time.
And how is Newsom being able to keep up with these guys with better tires? That's an amazing job.
I think the draft is a big part of it, possibly. Newsom will come in this time. Malechka has dropped back 9/10 from Newsom.
Newsom coming in too, by the way.
Newsom really trying to capitalize on the entry right behind these three, as there it is. Some of the teammates starting to line up, some of the factory-backed machines. Gian also coming in. Joe Branch, AJ Musselman, Brian Beard, Matt Houston yet to come down, along with Vern Hawkins III. Everyone else has come down for scheduled service.
And the only drivers on track are French Musselman, Brian Beard, Matt Houston, Vern Hawkins, and that's it. The top 5 has still pitted. Let's see, and they're gone 34, 33 lap for some. That is a really good fuel range. They can start considering, no more pit stops in this race.
Do you think they can try and save enough? The answer right now quickly responded with no. From Musselman, Beard, Houston, and Hawkins III, those drivers come in. Joe Branch is the only driver who has not ducked down, and he was on his own for his respective pack, just latching onto the draft tail right behind all these drivers. Keep in mind, these 3 are your net race leaders. That's why you're seeing them on screen, so they will cycle to the front. Incredible race by all 3 of them, I will say. So far, Lorenzo, to plan things out, they made the swap trap work, and they're some of the quickest cars on the racetrack still. 32 Fords at the moment.
At 32 Fords at the moment, and not far behind, there is a second group forming up with Alexis Newsom, Christopher Kreski, Jeff Hysong, and Matt Taylor, Brad Ruff involved in it, by the way.
There is that group right there. Still about a full straightaway behind your race leaders. It's been really intriguing how this all has played out. Track position has been very critical for these drivers tonight. With that, we'll take a quick step aside. You're watching the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by the DMLC Racing Channel. 33 laps to go and closing from Michigan. Here on RaceSpot TV and ESTV.
Wreck avoidances,
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
daring passes,
Outside. Oh, you're going to get it. Come on.
silly jumps,
Oh my god, a drive-through.
the thrill of victory,
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
and the occasional mishap.
My sim crashed.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
Welcome back to Brooklyn, Michigan, and MIS for coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series. HyperX Michigan 200, where it has been an intriguing one. After several early caution flags, the race has settled in, and we're now in the closing stages with several drivers expected to make one more pit stop to get to the end on fuel. Justin Prince, Lorenzo Bonder with you with Tyler Maxson in the production truck for tonight's action, as it has been exciting to say the very least. The top three have pulled away by more than 6 seconds over the rest of the pack.
Yeah, six seconds is the gap between Enzado's, Christopher and Nick DeGroot's gap, pack two, and Adam Young, Chris Kresge, Alexis Newsom, Barrett Rove, Jeff Hysong, and Robert Malechka, and Mac Taylor, and Mike Vigny's pack. So this is looking like lap by lap a three-way race than anything else.
So essentially, what do you do if you're these cars to try and close up? Because it seems they're struggling to keep up on the pace by 0.2 a lap compared to the cars in front. What can they do, Lorenzo?
To be, you wanted me to be very blunt?
Yes.
Yellow flag. That's the only hope.
You know, it could go that direction, huh?
That's because on pace, as the problem is, as much cars you get, you need to coordinate the leaders of a larger pack need to coordinate themselves to make the moves and make the pack still be fast as everybody else. If you have a smaller pack, you can negotiate the moves kind of easier. So that's why they're being much faster lap by lap by lap on the other cars, and they actually open up the gap lap by lap by lap. So for those who are in the second pack, I think the yellow flag has to be the way to go unless they run out of fuel.
That's a good point, is fuel mileage. Joe Branch was able to stretch it the longest out of anybody. The tough part is you'd have to stretch it an additional 5 laps. That's going to be the toughest part. We talked about the estimated window being 30 laps for these competitors. Some of them with the caution flags made it as far as 37.
Yeah, not surprised to see. I think some of the guys going for 37 laps. I think the yellow flag helped out a little bit on this situation, but the majority of them didn't even play aggressive. Just started being on the back foot, back paddling all the way up into the final ends of their stint, and that's why you make it a little bit of a disparity between the drivers. But they were still running fast. The thing is, those three in the front have been basically the guys, the forebearers of this race, not giving any chance whatsoever for those in the back.
When do you expect drivers to come on down? Because we are in the window to make it on gas to the end if you come in now. Yeah. When do you decide to go down? Do you split this race in half? Do you try and stretch to the end and hope for some luck? How do you try and play this?
This is a tricky portion for me because I think they're probably going to come on lap. If they go for the full run, I think it might be on lap 88 to lap 90, and they're going to have to rely on short gassing and then use that lightness of the car with the new wheels and being effective in it. I just don't know if they're going to have ground to make up for the other cars, and if the other cars have mileage, because I'm looking over here, they're on 15 laps of their stints. We have 20. If they can stretch that 5 extra laps, you can get really dicey for those three in front.
The tough thing about that is also making sure you time up too, Lorenzo, with the pit stops.
Yeah.
How much fuel you put in when the time it takes for the tires. I've heard a few drivers talk about that in the past.
Hey, especially with the tricky entry and I think more tricky exit here in Michigan, that you have to time it pretty much to the very perfect point where you come in, where you stop, and where you leave, and how effective you are, as the leaders are now being able to reach Brian Beer, and he already said he would be on the outside to make the life easier for the leaders.
See them trying to wait as long as they can to get the draft. No swap this time, but there is a change for second as a result of that, and Zoto up to P2 because of that.
And remember what I said about Zoto playing the safe route? Even if Nick DeGroot is on the inside and might go for anything, Zoto, just playing that fuel game. He gets within the leader's wing and backs off the pedal. He wants to make the move safe and sound. If not, try to maximize the fuel efficiency.
The work Enzoto puts in for Lionheart competition, it'd be incredible to see him now try and lead some laps. He'll do exactly that here at 18 laps to go this time. George Enzoto now is the leader as Stouffer goes back to the inside as they start to swap draft between the 6 and the 13.
What's impressive for me is that, for example, Enzoto just did a 32.4, Stouffer 32.6, and Nick DeGroot 32.5. Nobody literally in the second pack that is actually leading and trying to be at the rabbit of the hair of that pack is actually being able to match the guy's pace at the front.
Here comes the run again for Stouffer for the side draft as well as for the swap draft rather, with 16 to go. Keep in mind, Enzoto had some good speed in some of the warm-up races, and the reason I mention the warm-up races is it's a way for drivers to practice and get themselves acquainted with the race itself, and Enzoto, you can tell that preparation coming into play.
And also with the setup, because again, they don't have the a free setup, like open setups like you're probably getting in the IndyCar series. You have to prepare every race with a custom fixed setup, and those warm-up races and the practices is what allows you to get acquainted with those fixed setups and see what the strengths and weaknesses are at for that specific setup for that specific track.
Back for the swap now. Final 15 or so laps here at Michigan. Expecting the calls to come out in the next lap or two, potentially from these drivers. If it stays green, it comes down to these three. Give a shout out, by the way, to Adam Young, who's been able to charge his way up to 4th spot in the second pack. Incredible race for Young, one of his best races of the season as well.
And I think for Young, he needs that good result, right? He's been a guy, just taking a quick look over here, he's been one of those guys, 3 stars in all his races. No top 10s and no top 5s so far. So a good race like this, his best result so far in the season, I think he will be pleased with himself.
Think so as well. Calls are coming over the radio. DeGroot calling in. Stouffer calling in. Pit window is open coming up to the final 12 laps. Whole top 3 is going to come down together.
Right on my mark, right?
And DeGroot's going to go and try it on the high side here. A little bit of a wider arc. Loses some time, though, on the entry. And no misfortunes on this pit entry. Now it becomes the question mark for the others. When do they try and come down? Remember, they are going up to 0.2 of a second slower per lap. And with the numbers that are seen there, with them able to stretch it all to 31, they are still projected to be just outside that mark by maybe a couple laps, unless they really save.
Just looking over here, Justin, 7.9. Actually, 7.9 is the average pit time in the stall for all 3 drivers, Enzoto, DeGroot, and Stouffer, as they come out of pit lane. 31 seconds total on their pit stall.
Alex Gouillon has pit from this respective group, by the way. So drivers have been going in. It's just a matter of when does this single file choo-choo train elect to come on down if they choose to do so. 10 to go from MIS this time, and they're starting to battle at the back of the pack. Some of the factory back cars scrapping. Jeff Gianna also trying to scrap a little bit.
And talk about Barrett Grove getting nearly involved with the incident at the start of the race, and now clinging to himself back in the top 5.
Over the radio, Adam Young coming in this time. He's made his way to the bottom of the racetrack to signal that. We'll see if anyone tries to follow suit with Adam Young. Young with a later time in. As now Barrett Rolfe trying to gain some positions as a result of all this.
Apparently High Song is going to come in on this lap. I think I heard that on the radio.
More calls coming over the radio as well. As to be expected, these drivers could not make it. Now they're moving to the bottom to signal that for the stops. By the way, in the air pack, Stouffer cycled out in front of the rest of the air cars, followed by Anzaldo and De Groot.
Yeah, he had the best pit stop out of the bunch. He had a 31.4 from start to finish. Anzaldo 31.7. De Groot 32.3. But the thing is, De Groot is right on the back wing of Anzaldo. I don't doubt there for a second they're going to work and try to get themselves all the way closer to Christopher for a three-way battle for the win. Possibly, who knows?
Who knows, especially with the strategy possible in this grouping still too, with 7 to go this time. Now Taylor has already gone off the lane. Van der Sande and Musselman have made it clear they're thinking about potential stops.
You know what this race reminds me a little bit, Justin?
What does it remind you of?
Shades of 2001 Michigan. The off strategies are playing themselves all the way towards the end, and some of the drivers, trying to go all the way up in the fuel range. And I think that was about Montoya. I think it was about to win the race, if I recall correctly. And Tony Kanaan basically got that off the line because the leader of the race, no, it was Max Pappas, was about to win the race. Max actually ran out of fuel on turn number 4, and Tony Kanaan winning at the line. That could happen.
You're right, this could be in that situation. As now, Brian Beard lets by the current lead group. Malechka currently at the point. Kresge currently in second. Rolf in third. Newsom and Gian in the top 5 group by 4 seconds. The other drivers who have already pit are 25 seconds behind this with 5 to go. Kresge now on the outside trying to take away the current race lead. Malechka, though, able to make it stick on the bottom side.
Car got loose for Malechka, even though he's trying to chase the draft out of Kresge. Turn number 1, but it's not working whatsoever. Sorry, that was the opposite. Kresge trying to hunt Malechka. My apologies.
They've really picked up the pace here. Can they all stretch it on the fuel is the big question with 4 to go. These drivers 32 laps now into the respective stints. As the traffic moves to the bottom, they move up to the top. Oh, and Kresge's in the wall. Kresge taps the wall. He gets hit from behind by Newsom. Saves into the bottom of the racetrack.
Wow.
Kresge gets shuffled back to 5th. We stay green.
Wow. But that's the thing that Malechka wanted a little bit, because the guy, he opened up a little bit of a gap for Rolf. But still within the draft range for all drivers, so it's still under green on this one.
And Kresge's elected to come down to the pit lane. Kresge has come down for service. Coming to 2 to go, this time by the stripe. Newsom now with a big run. Bringing Gian with them. Rolf elected to stay in the single file line for now. Newsom now tries to set up the move for second. Elects to stay single file for now. 2 to go.
Look for Newsom possibly making that move on the inside on the backstretch as she's standing it up. Inside line going to the outside, trying to maximize that fuel run. And Malechka going on the full defensive like he did on Gateway.
Rolf still electing to stay in the line. Rolf now starting to lose some speed. Let's by Newsom. Drops to under 210 miles an hour as Gian drives by. Final lap from Michigan.
Rolf out of fuel.
Can the others make it on fuel is the question. Joe Branch is 5 seconds back of this pack. Malechka tries to go down to the bottom. Swamp 3 wide for the race lead. In turn 3. Gian can't make it stick. Newsom tries to keep it side by side. Near contact. To the checkered flag. Robert Malechka wins the HyperX Michigan 200 and makes it stick on the fuel just barely.
Wow.
They made it stick and made it stretch. They were able to make the fuel last 35 laps to end off the race. Impressive, Lorenzo.
Impressive run out of the guys. And Malechka back-to-back winner. So another driver with with multiple wins and back-to-back. Newsom had a really good run, but she had to be checked up on the outside with a good defensive move out of Malechka. That's what maybe have decided the winner in this race.
And Malechka the third has already ran out of gas. It was that close. He ran out just after the line. It came down to feet to determine if they could make it to the checkered flag on fuel. Absolutely incredible scenes here at Michigan. Christopher, Nick DeGroot, George Anzaldo with their strategy. They looked like they had the best strategy at one point until the others showed they saved enough gas. Those drivers 24 seconds behind Lorenzo.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, the hunter becomes the hunted, and in that situation, those three became the hunted. And just didn't make it work on the field. I think they were hoping for the yellow because they were going so close to one another. We actually nearly had that yellow. It probably would have, we would have had a last lap finish. So that's unfortunate, but hey, this is racing, man. Sometimes strategy doesn't work, and some people get paid off with the overcut.
An absolutely incredible moment here in this race. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results. After a fuel-saving affair, your results presented by Carnox. Your differential, 0.038 seconds. Alexis Newsom comes home in second. It's a factory-backed 1-2 after a factory-backed front row. Jeff Gion finishes in third with Joe Branch and Alexander Vandersen rounding out the top five. AJ Musselman in sixth. And then it's still for DeGroot and Zoldo, 7th through 9th. Barrett Rolfe rounds out the top 10 in the running order. Matt Houston came home in 11th position tonight with Mike Rigney 1 lap down in 12th. Matt Taylor, Brian Beard round out the top 14 with Christopher Kresge and Matt Wagner 15th and 16th. Guyon, Jan, Teed, and Hawkins III round out the top 20. The rest of the field did not finish after early big ones in this race. Ken Hacker finished in 21st position. Dean Mull 22nd. Luis Gonzalez Nunez 23rd. Tony Schauman, the points leader, 4th to 24th. With Fowler, Hagstrom, Forsyth, Malone, Galvin, Hacker, the top 30. And Paul Jenkins did not start tonight's race. That brings us into our HyperX post-race show after an eventful one at MIS. Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LINEHRT15 for 15% off orders. And our drivers currently getting ready to make their way over for celebrations. An incredible race, Lorenzo. Your thoughts on how things played out? At first, we were thinking they couldn't stretch it, and we were wondering about the drivers dropping back 0.2 a lap. Then the dots were connected once you said Michigan 2001.
Yeah, basically, this was an insane race, and we didn't have the 2001 finish that I thought it would have, but those guys on the overcut made it work towards the end of the race. What a race between Malechka, Newsom, and Haisong. You know, just playing very fair, hard but fair, which in every driver. Just taking a look over here, a little bit of correction for me. Malechka and Newsom are the only two drivers with multiple wins, but that makes Malechka the only 3-time winner and the only back-to-back winner here in the Lionheart Speedway Series. So that number 91 car is getting a lot of pace. Can't wait to see what the interviews will go.
Can't wait to see the celebration too from HyperX Victory Lane, and what was an impressive victory for Robert Malechka, able to stretch the gas to take home the checkered flag in this one. With that, let's head over to HyperX Victory Lane, as Malechka is now standing by celebrations. Robert Malechka, do you have a copy?
Yes, I do. How's it going, boys?
Doing good. First of all, you were able to stretch it on fuel, just made it to the very end on gas. How did you get it done, first of all?
That caution on lap 29 really helped us because we could have maybe stretched it from there, but I knew if we got to 66 or 67, we would have been good to the end with about half run save. So with I think 10, 11 laps to go, I knew I was good. So that's when I started moving to the front.
Yeah, it was the question mark with the original projections about 30 laps. Can people stretch it? And we've seen the answer for that. But talk about the stress of trying to make sure you took home the checkered flag. You had to battle with Alexis Newsom, a teammate, to decide this win.
Yeah, Alexis and Jeff was, on the same strat as us. So all three of us, played that to a T, played that great. And but yeah, me and Alexis, we're every straight we were constantly running numbers. And so we had a good idea, where we could make it to. And it worked out great for both of us, 1-2.
Now, this brings us towards the midway portion of the season, and next race goes to Kentucky. Your thoughts on going to Kentucky Speedway, 134 laps, 200 miles on the docket?
Yeah, it should be, another great race for this league. I can't do this league without HyperX sponsoring. But yeah, we'll see if usually Kentucky's a little bit packy, a little bit strung out, kind of like Fontana in some ways. So yeah, we'll see how that race goes.
Congratulations on the victory tonight. You're the season leader in victories, Robert.
That sounds great. See if we can get one next race at Kentucky.
Robert Malechka, your race winner tonight. Started on the pole, and oh, by the way, that also adds to some history to be one of the first pole sitters to win at MIS in Lionheart competition, including in the Speedway Series here at this track. The teammate to Robert Malechka, Alexis Newsom, is now standing by with Lorenzo Bonder. Alexis finished in second.
Yeah, Alexis finished in second. And by the way, first and foremost, congratulations to that P2. I don't know if you think it is a little bit sour because you could have gotten that P1, but I think for the team itself, a factory pack, you guys are pretty much satisfied. And I think for you, that puts you in the lead of this championship in points. So all in all, I think, Alexis, you are pretty much satisfied with the outcome. Oh, we probably have a little bit of an issue with Alexis. We're going to wait a little bit on probably technical issues for Alexis. Just give us 1 second, people.
Alexis Newsom, do you have a copy? Try this one more time. Alexis Newsom, do you have a copy?
Testing?
We got you now.
We got you now. We got you now, Alexis.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Just talk us through that race because I think all in all, I think you're pretty much satisfied. Even though that P2 was so close, your teammate won. But at the end of the day, you're the points leader in the championship. If I did my mathematics correctly.
Yeah, it was a great points day. Obviously, it always hurts coming that close. But it's good when it's your teammate. It's the one that beat you. Happy for him.
Right on. And just like Robert, I want to ask you, how did you make it on field? Because it looked so close to the end. I think after the race, you were kind of like clutching in between lap, the turn 2 all the way down into the pit lane. But how close were you on field coming to the final lap?
I had 0.8 gallons. Well, 0.08 gallons when crossing the line. And Robert ran out like a second before I did.
That's cutting pretty much close, Alexis, but yeah, it's very close. So pretty much cutting at the fine margins of where the guard is going to start to choke. But now looking into Kentucky, a very long laps. I think of 134. Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin. 134. Did I get that right?
134. Yes.
Yeah, all right. I still remember something. My brain's still working. How do you plan for a race like that?
Well, it's tough. I've not raced at Kentucky that much. And, well, it's really not that different from a shorter race, planning-wise. Just divide it up and usually work backwards. And when cautions come, you recalculate it every time. and see if you can make it, if it's a good risk, and so on.
Right on. And before we let you go, Alexis, anybody in the team factory backed or anybody watching that you want to give any shout outs?
Yeah, thanks to my sponsors, Big Blue, Cowboy Stuff, Sunset Arctic Graphics, and everyone on the team factory backed, and my new team, Three Crowns Racing, with India Lights. Thank all of them.
All right, right on. And again, Alexis, congratulations on that P2. Close battle, but hard, fair, fought battle. And I can't wait to see what you do in the next round.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, back to you, Justin.
That's Alexis Newsome, second place tonight, starting in 8th position. Like to thank Alexis and Robert Malechka taking the time to speak with us during the HyperX post-race show. And on that note, Renzo, your final thoughts on this one as we head off to Kentucky next, and what should be an intriguing one for the midway portion of the season.
I can't wait to see what Kentucky brings. I think I kind of agree with Alexis at the fuel conservation. I think there will be a pretty much of a fuel battle than anything else. Not like Michigan, where it is more tricky to navigate, but I think you're gonna have to work with the fine margins and anything else. And it is a track that I think it is more high attrition than Michigan, because it is a shorter race. It is a shorter track. But still will provide some great action. And it's, again, final round before we go into the second event of the Triple Crown at Indianapolis.
That's going to be a very fun race, I think, absolutely, to see who can take home a Triple Crown victory in this series. 500 miles the distance at Indianapolis, keep in mind, and double the points for the second Triple Crown event in the Lionheart Speedway series. But plenty of sponsors we'd like to thank for being a part of tonight's coverage and the Lionheart Speedway series, starting by the DMLC Racing Channel. Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Look no further than DMLC Racing Channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing Channel on YouTube, its Facebook page at the DMLC Racing Channel. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of the premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com. Don't forget to use the promo code LionHRT15 for 15% off orders. The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. Key to its incredible realism is a groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com. For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 and Simulation Kit adds the missing driver to car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to the in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. You're ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com and don't forget to use the promo code LINE2021 for 20% off orders. Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach free lane. For more information on the Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz. Use the promo code Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off orders. We'd also like to thank all the sponsors as well on your screen for all the work they do for the Lionheart Racing Series. To learn more about them, go to LionheartRacingSeries.com. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series and the HyperX Michigan 200. It was a thriller, coming down to fuel mileage and strategy in the end. I'd like to congratulate Robert Malechka for taking home the checker flag here at MIS. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For Esteban Bao, for Tower Max and Lorenzo Bonder, I'm Justin Prince saying thank you for watching RaceSpot TV and ESTV's coverage of tonight's action. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you next time out for Lionheart action on Wednesday.
Beginning with familiar faces. For the first time, Lionheart is going back to its roots. 18 races to determine who is the best and the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-an-hour Indy cars, inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one inaugural champion, whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. Find out next. The Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by DMLC Racing Channel, starts now.